Hey guys, this announcement is very special for me, personally, as I am a huge fan of the franchise. We have released 4 Final Fantasy titles on GOG. And this is when the fanfare starts. Let's start with 2 smaller editions, Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy IV 3D Remake versions. Those 2 games are ports from the Nintendo DS. The original visuals were fully rebuilt to harness the 3D possibilities that dual-screen handheld offered back in the day. We get a full 3D environment, MVEs, rearranged music, quick saves, and a lot of in-game system and story alternations. The results are the games that are different enough from their originals for you to check out even if you played the Nintendo versions. And just a quick note, if somehow you are unfamiliar with the Final Fantasy series and you are wondering why the hell are we starting out with the 3rd entry, no worries. In Final Fantasy, almost every entry introduces a whole new world and a totally new set of characters. Each number is a separate adventure, but with some recurrent elements and mythos that tie the series together. Final Fantasy III 3D Remake makes a big change to the original Final Fantasy III story. The original version had 4 nameless warriors that you take control of in order to save the world. Here, you get a team of named protagonists with additional characteristics, dialogue and looks. The game also introduces a lot of other changes under the hood, changing a lot in terms of mechanics, loot locations, improving translations, adding new monsters and such. You start the game as Lunef, who finds himself falling into a cave and is tasked with assembling a party of 4 warriors of light that are granted special powers by the Wind Crystal and tasked with saving the other crystals and ultimately saving the world. While admirably, this Final Fantasy title is a bit weaker when it comes to overall story, its strength lies in how you progress your Warriors of Light throughout the game. Each character can take up any available role or job, as this is actually the 2nd series version of the famous job system that was later revised in other titles. This means that you can switch your character roles freely throughout the game, allowing for some very versatile party compositions. If you like tinkering a lot with characters and are not afraid of some grind in order to get some amazing items, then this is title definitely worth checking. Final Fantasy IV 3D Remake is also a total overhaul of the original Super Nintendo version. Here the game was also rebuilt ground up in full 3D for dual screen. Final Fantasy IV also includes much more cutscenes. The original story was expanded with some additional plots and the translations were corrected. Some of the cutscenes are even voice acted. And also, once and for all, Final Fantasy IV 3D Remake addresses the confusion that US players were experiencing back in the Super Nintendo era. When the original game was released in the US, the only other ported Final Fantasy titles were Final Fantasy I, Final Fantasy IV, and Final Fantasy VI. So the decision was made to alter the names, and so Final Fantasy I remained as Final Fantasy I. Final Fantasy IV, however, became Final Fantasy II, and Final Fantasy VI became Final Fantasy III. The renaming trend stopped when the best game of all time was released, but that's a different story, for another time. Final Fantasy IV is admittedly better than Final Fantasy III. In fact, it's one of the first games that established such emotional and almost cinematic storytelling in JRPGs. It follows a story of Cecil, a dark knight who one day decides that he's had enough of wrongdoings and rebels against his king. Then redempts himself and becomes a paladin who dedicates his life to justice from now on. And invariably, his and his friends' righteous path tasks him with saving the world from ultimate evil. The plot really checks out most of the important story building points. We have character development, character-driven stories, redemption, betrayal, plot twist, and some very, very sad moments. In Final Fantasy IV, characters have fixed roles in the battle, But you can still mix and match them with the augment system, where all party members can equip skills obtained from other characters. Like with Final Fantasy III, this also allows for some versatile builds throughout the game. Okay, those were some of the smaller titles from the Final Fantasy franchise. We hope you find them interesting to pick up. We made sure that they work on modern Windows systems, added modern controller support, and in Final Fantasy IV case, we made a small adjustment to the pre-rendered cutscenes playback so that it does not stutter when using audio devices supporting more than 2 audio channels. And now, get ready for some serious heavy hitters. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. In my personal opinion, Final Fantasy VIII is the second best Final Fantasy game. One could argue that it has the easiest main character in history, but when I played this game in my rebellious teen era, he was just the coolest. Whatever. The original Final Fantasy VIII was the second Final Fantasy title to come to PS1 along with the 3D model capabilities it offered. This title also did not differentiate between world and battle character models, unlike the other Final Fantasy title on PS1. This title also did not differentiate between world and battle characters models, unlike the other Final Fantasy title on PS1. The character models were amazing at that time, and it had the main character model being the best looking guy around here. The remastered version did some changes to the models to accommodate bigger available resolutions. Still, the overall game retains the original looks, and it will provide you with some epic moments and feels. This title does not hesitate and starts hard right after you push the new game button. The intro is so amazing that it was even played in local cinemas before movies when Final Fantasy VIII was first released. Squall Leonhardt is a military academy cadet who we meet when he's about to take his exam to become SEED, a mercenary elite group. He leads his initial team of 3 through various interesting and intense missions, meeting new allies along the way until everything goes sideways, flipping the script to the ultimate save the world scenario, full of epicness, shocking reveals, sadness and friendship. A true high school fantasy drama that we all took very seriously. Later, the story admittedly becomes a bit convoluted. It even introduces plots where you play other characters, and one could argue that it pieces together rather loosely. But the whole journey is amazing nevertheless. Apart from the pre-rendered cutscenes being absolutely stunning even to this day, the game is also full of beautiful pre-rendered backgrounds and vivid turn-based battles. They may not look much from the standard JRPG viewpoint until you summon your first Guardian Force. Battles are great, and the game also introduces some unique mechanics, where in order to use magic spells, characters need to first draw them from the draw point on the map or directly from enemies. Those spells, apart from being cast, can also be tied to character stats, increasing it by the amount of the specific slotted spells you have, which in turn can lead to some interesting decisions whether to cast those spells or keep them to keep your characters buffed. The downside is that the system can also be relatively easy to abuse if you are special enough to farm the spells to the maximum 99 quantity. Luckily, in this version of the game, if you want to go easy, you can use one of the buster options added to make the game progression more straightforward. And last but not least, the music. Final Fantasy is famous for the amazing soundtracks and recurring themes in songs, but Final Fantasy VIII definitely delivers some of the timeless bangers like Liberty Fatale, The Landing, Forge Your Way, The Man with the Machine Gun, Maybe I'm the Lion, Breezy, and many more. Overall, Final Fantasy VIII is a solid piece of classic that is sometimes overshadowed by other Final Fantasy entries. It remains my second favorite, even if for nostalgia reasons. Next up, Final Fantasy IX, the third and final entry on the PlayStation 1 era, and a massive tonal shift for the series. After the sci-fi steampunk grid of the other Final Fantasy entries for the PS1, Square went back to its roots. This is a full-fledged high medieval fantasy that pays homage to the 8 and 16-bit classics. It makes sense as this was the last game overseen by series creator Hironobu Sakaguchi and directed by Hiroyuki Ito, the mastermind behind the active time battle system. The game kicks off with a theatrical heist. The Tantalus Theater troupe arrives in Alexandria to perform a play and secretly kidnap Princess Garnet. The genius of this opening is how it uses 3 perspectives to build the world. Playing as Zidane, a rug thief, sneaking into the castle and taking part in the I Want to Be Your Canary play. Then playing as Vivi, a clumsy, small, black mage who must be the cutest and saddest character in the history of the franchise. As Vivi, you try to sneak in order to see the show. And then you play as Steiner, the stiff captain of the knights whose loyalty will be tested many times during the game. After the plan goes totally sideways, the characters unite to help Garnet in her plan to reach the industrial powerhouse of Lindlum. The initial heist plot switches to a grand political mystery that our heroes will slowly unfold, eventually leading to, you guessed it, saving the whole world. The initial switches in the characters you are controlling are one of the most significant elements of Final Fantasy IX storytelling. The team will often separate, forcing you to adapt different strategies concerning your team's composition. And it will be important as each character has a very specific job to play during the combat. The storytelling also utilizes active time events. Those are mini scenes that let you see what other party members are doing elsewhere in a city or world. It makes the world feel alive and independent of the main story hero. In total, your team will consist of 8 characters, each with a very interesting story to tell. You will also meet various other, very fleshed out NPCs along the way, Beatrix being one of the highlights. What makes Final Fantasy IX truly unique compared to other titles is its ability system. Abilities your character use are tied to your gear. You learn skills by equipping specific weapons and earning ability points in battle. This makes even weak early game loot very valuable, as you'll often find yourself keeping an old dagger equipped just a little longer to master a crucial skill. The version we released on GOG is a modern PC version, featuring nicely upscaled models and autosave functionality, and some boosters that you can toggle to make the grind easier and help you focus on the game's rich story. So there you have it. 4 great Final Fantasy titles have finally arrived on GOG. But you may be wondering, wait, where is the best Final Fantasy and a game ever created? Well, let's just say that now that we have released the first batch of these legendary Square Enix titles, there ain't no getting off this train we're on. See ya!